Alright guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness and welcome to my review of The Exorcist. This one came out in 1973. It's starring Linda Blair, Ellen Burstyn, and Jason Miller, and was directed by William Friedkin. Now, oh boy, how do I even start this one? First of all, at some point I will compile a list of like the top 20 or top 10 or top 15 or whatever the fuck of my favorite horror movies of all time. I will say it right now, The Exorcist is probably, no, not probably, it's guaranteed to be in the top 5. Where exactly? I don't know. But, holy shit, dude. This fucking movie, it's a masterpiece. It is a absolute 100% horror masterpiece. There's no... It's very, very hard to beat it. There are horror movies that I like more than this one, but it's few and far between. There's not a lot that's going to beat this one, man. Certainly the best demonic / possession horror movie of all time. There's no contest on that. There's a lot of strong contenders for best demonic horror movie. I'm thinking like The Omen or Hereditary or... you know, stuff along that, along those lines. But The Exorcist, bar none, is the top dog when it comes to possession horror or demonic horror. Real quick, wanted to talk a little bit about a personal story of mine involving this movie. So, my brother, who, he was a little bit of a prankster. Still is. I'm making it sound like he's fucking dead. He's not. He was a little bit of a prankster back in the day, man. I'm the baby of the family. I'm the youngest. So, you know, both of my brothers, they like to fuck with me a lot. You know, they still do a little bit. It's all good. Because now I can get them back. but then I really couldn't. So one day he calls me into his room and he goes, "Hey, sit," or it might have been in the living room. One of the fucking two. Anyways, so he calls me in, sits me down and goes, "Hey, I want you to play this game." And a lot of people who have been on the internet for a minute already fucking know what I'm going to talk about. And yeah, man. So he ends up showing me the maze game. And my sister was there too, so she got it pretty good, but she was way older than I was. I think I might have been like 7 or 8 or somewhere around there. So I was fucking mortified. For people who don't know what the maze game is, it was a flash game on the internet long time ago. And basically what it was you had to take your mouse and you had to guide the little square through these, you know, hallways, and there's 3 levels. First 2 are pretty fucking easy. And the third one, you're going through it, and then, you know, it gets real narrow. You have to kind of look really, really close. And when you do that, and right as you're about to beat it, the Linda Blair makeup job from The Exorcist, you know, fucking Reagan, all demoned up and cut up and shit, just pops on the screen with the loudest fucking scream ever. Like, it almost broke our speakers because he had it up so damn loud. It fucking terrified me, man. I couldn't really tell you because my memory's super hazy from back then, so I couldn't tell you if I was starting to get in the horror and I liked like Jason and Freddy and all that jazz, which is the starter kit for a lot of horror fans. Not to insult Freddy and Jason or anything like that, but, you know. So I couldn't tell you if I was like into horror yet or not, but from that point, once I learned what that face was from, it's from The Exorcist, I swore off of it. I'm like, there's no fucking way I will ever watch that. And, you know, for when I did get into horror, if I wasn't already into it, I would watch pretty much anything. But I steered clear of the fucking Exorcist for as long as I possibly could. I didn't watch it. You know, I've seen it plenty of times now. But I don't think I watched it till like my freshman or sophomore year of high school. Like, it was that fucking bad, dude. The trauma from that fucking experience, just getting that terrifying. And it's still one of the best fucking makeup jobs in all of horror. That makeup job on Linda Blair's face, dude, it can't be beat, man. It's so fucking eerie and scary, and it just gets worse as the movie progresses. Holy shit. Still fucking, and I know I'm not the only one who was traumatized by that. I know for a fact that I'm not. But yeah, man. So eventually, I'm this big horror fan. I have been for years. Again, I got into it when I was about 10 or so. And my mom was like, you need to fucking watch The Exorcist. I think it's been long enough. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. It's all good. Shit doesn't scare me anymore. Let's just fucking do it. Let's just do it. Sat down, bought a copy of The Exorcist. I actually went out to my local V-Stock. For anyone who doesn't know, who's watching in other places of the country, V-Stock's a DVD resale shop. Anyways, so I went to V-Stock, grabbed a copy, came back home, and fucking watched it. And it immediately became one of my favorite horror movies of all time. This movie's a fucking masterpiece, dude. I hear the stories of people passing out in movie theaters during this film, and just the sheer amount of terror that audiences experienced. It doesn't surprise me, man. This movie, especially for 1973, Halloween hadn't come out yet. I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre was about to come out. I think that's 74, I think 74. And granted, The Exorcist is drastically different than those movies, but we had some disturbing shit come out, but nothing like this, dude. This was so fucking different, and people didn't know how to handle it. And again, people will say like, oh, old horror is so cheesy. And if you look at it now, sure, visually there's more shocking shit out there, and conceptually I'm sure people can come up with more disturbing shit than this. And that's actually, that last one's probably a stretch, because this goes places, man. It's no fucking joke. And you pop a movie like this into that time period where people just were not used to seeing like this shit like this. Dude, I don't hesitate to believe that some people fucking passed out in theaters and ran out of the theaters. I heard stories about people crying. I was banned in some theaters in some states and shit like that. I would have loved to have grown up in that era of horror where fucking movies were getting banned and shit, and like it felt almost illegal if you were able to get a copy to watch it. Like shit like that. I miss those days, dude. I wasn't alive during those days, but I like the idea of that. Honestly, I'm surprised this movie was even able to be released at all. Because for then, man, shit, people were losing their fucking minds over this movie. Anyways, let's talk about the fucking movie with spoiler-free intent. We will get in the spoiler sections here in a bit. This is going to be a long one, so sorry. This movie is fucking disturbing. It's unsettling. It's terrifying. There's really no way to spoiler-free this shit, because all the stuff I want to talk about is essential shit in the plot. There's no wasted time here, man. The pace of this movie, it starts out so subtle. And it starts out just you getting introduced to characters. The opening couple scenes are incredible. And so, you go from one setting to another just like that. You're like, oh, fuck. But just the way these characters are introduced, and then you see the relationship of two characters in particular. And then you have a third one who's just going through this deep, dark journey of his own. And so you then have this, possession take place, which that's not a fucking spoiler. It's, the core of the movie. And dude, just getting to see these characters who are already dealing with crazy shit, having to deal with something so insane, and then you actually see what this demon is doing to Reagan, and it's eating her alive, basically. And I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but it's absolutely fucking terrifying. And there's just scenes in this movie where you think of the time period and you're like, how the fuck were they able to do that? Like, how the fuck did they get away with this shit? And we'll get into all of it. I'm not gonna hold back. Not that my channel, not that my reviews are monetized anyways, but if they were, this one's wouldn't be. Because I'm not holding back, man. We'll get into all of it. But, guys, I'm in danger of rambling. This is quickly becoming one of the longest spoiler-free sections of all time. I just had to talk about some personal stories with this one and just try to convey how much this movie means to me as a horror fan. I fucking love this one, dude. And I cannot wait to talk spoilers. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the spoiler section. Let's spoil the shit out of this motherfucker. Alright, spoiler time. Your ass has been warned. Now, let's just hop right into this shit, man. So we get the opening here in northern Iraq, where Father Marin is on an excavation dig, and he digs up a little statue of Pazuzu, who is one of the big demons. I don't know how else to describe him. And he will obviously play a big role in this movie. But he uncovers the statue of Pazuzu. It's just this little demon statue. And as soon as he does that, man, shit just starts getting weird off the rip. You get him going into some guy's office, and the clock just stops moving. Starts acting very funky. He eventually gets lured to a fucking huge statue of Pazuzu. And then he goes and he sees these two dogs, like, fighting to the death, and just... It seems as though it brings out the worst in certain people, and then for others, it just fucking emotionally just ravages them almost. Because he immediately, as soon as he gets that statue, he's just fucking tired, and he's lumbering around. At least that's the sense I got from it, man. And then boom, then we meet Chris and Reagan. Chris being the mother of Reagan, who is an actress, and they're a wealthier family. And Reagan is immediately acting weird. Not immediately. At first, she's just a normal little girl. I think she's about, 12 years old. And so, whenever shit just starts going wrong, there's a moment where she's sleeping and Chris hears all these fucking noises coming from her room that are very unnatural. And Reagan's just, at this point, Chris is just like, okay, something's wrong. You can think anything, man. Puberty, fucking whatever. But something's up. You don't know what. And there's already, as a viewer, there's already this eerie feeling. You're like, oh, shit. Like, stuff immediately. Like I said, man, as soon as that statue gets uncovered, shit just starts going wrong. Completely wrong. And it starts getting worse, and then eventually we meet Father Karras, who, to me, I think the stuff with Chris and Reagan is very compelling. Obviously, a mother having to witness her daughter go through stuff like that. Also, Reagan's dad is out of the picture. He's really, I think it's her birthday, and he just really doesn't. I mean, Chris says it as much. He's like, oh, he doesn't give a shit. Like, he's a deadbeat, man. So that's, Reagan is already kind of in this vulnerable place. She's a young woman, 12 years old, starting to break into womanhood. And obviously we don't get too deep into that section of things, but it's subtext. And then she's having to deal with the fact that her dad's not there, her dad's just not in the picture, so there's already some emotional shit going on with her, and she's already struggling, which makes her a very, vulnerable person for Pazuzu to possess. And he does, man, right off the bat. Like, it's very subtle at first. She just starts having troubles, but very quickly it gets bad. Then we get introduced to Father Karras, which, I cut myself off, but I think the stuff with Reagan and Chris is very compelling. But to me, Father Karras is probably the most compelling character in the film for me. He's a priest who just outright says it. He's like, I think I'm losing my faith. Like, he's going through a lot of really, really bad shit. His mother is going to be put in a home pretty soon, which, we eventually do see her in the home. And man, that was one of the worst scenes for me. There's plenty of rough shit going on here, obviously, but just seeing, he doesn't have a lot of money, and so the home he puts her in is very downtrodden and just shit. It's not a good place at all. And all of these just broken down old women are just like beckoning to him, because again, he has the priest collar on and all that stuff, and so like they're just like lunging towards him, not like violently, but just, I should say, lumbering. They're just these broken down old women, and you hear all this like screaming and moaning, and it's just, oh god. And then he goes and sees his mother, who's just like, she just doesn't even want to look at him. She's like, how could you put me in here? And then on top of that, she fucking dies. So this guy is just beaten down and just ravaged by this, man. He is completely, his faith has taken a hit. No question about it. And he even talks to his, fellow priest friend or whatever. He's like, dude, I think I'm losing it, man. Like, there's no reason for me to believe anymore. Which, if you're in that situation and shit is that bad, I won't go into any personal talks about my own beliefs and all that jazz. It's not what I'm here to do, but I get it. I get it. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, man, Father Karras is easily the most compelling character in this, and getting to see his character evolve and change. And again, it's not like super overt, but it's minor stuff, and it's noticeable, and it's a very, very, very nice aspect of this film. Obviously, the subject matter is not nice at all, but it's a very, very impressive part of this film. And honestly, all the characters in this are fucking great. The mother and daughter, and then the Father Karras, they're all just fucking great. Excellent performances. And yeah, man. So anyways, again, we go back to Reagan. And I know I'm flip-flopping. I am not going along the plot of this movie at all, because there's a lot of jumps from plot to plot, because, you do follow Father Karras and you follow Chris. And their plots are very separate at first, and then they right together. So yeah, man, we get back to Reagan and Chris, and shit is getting way worse now. Again, we have the infamous spider walk scene, which that was like my first foray, like trying to be like, okay. Again, I'm a big horror movie guy at this point, but I'm still refusing to watch The Exorcist. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch that scene. And that's all I'm watching. And I watched it, and I watched her spider walk down the fucking stairs and the blood coming out of her mouth. I'm like, okay, I'm good. And she doesn't even have the makeup on by that point. But I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine. That's it. That's all I want. And eventually, that would not forever be the case. But yeah, man. So shit is getting really bad. And so she has tried to take her to hospitals, and we get some just awful, like they think it's something to do with her brain, so they do all this surgery on her. and like you get the needle going in her neck, and just some awful shit. And this is a good place to give props to the sound design. Holy shit, excuse me. I drank coffee, what the fuck? Anyways, it's a good place to bring up the motherfucking sound design in this movie. It is where it needs to be strong and overt in your face. It just fucking smacks you, dude. And the hospital stuff is a big example of that. You know, she's getting operated on. Again, you get that needle in the neck. You don't see it go in, but you see blood, like, spurting out. And the fact that all this is happening to a little girl. And by this point, she's not even fully 100% possessed yet. And it's still, like, Reagan's still battling with Pazuzu in the body. And obviously, you know, Pazuzu does end up winning and fully takes over Reagan. But just seeing this young girl just wince in pain from all of this shit happening to her, it's fucking disturbing, dude. It's rough, man. And so eventually, Chris reaches out to Father Karras, who is very hesitant. He does not want to fucking even touch this shit at all because, you know, in order to perform an exorcism, I am not Catholic personally, but, you know, I have known Catholic people in my life, and I've just been talking. I'm like, hey, well, you know, in my weird shit, I'm like, what are exorcisms like? And, you know, I used to talk to my buddy who was a pastor and all that, and I know to perform an exorcism, your faith has to be strong. Like, you cannot be wavering. You cannot be like, oh, you know, maybe this is legit, maybe it's not. Like, no, you need to be firm in your belief. You need to be all of that. And dude, he's not there. And so he's like, no, I'm not gonna fucking do that, man. That would not end well. And yeah, so eventually she coerces him into doing it because she's now convinced that, okay, this is not anything medical. Her fucking head turns around at one point. There's a scene where it's basically Pazuzu at this point, but Pazuzu is, as you know, in Reagan's body, obviously, is masturbating with a cross while saying the phrase, let Jesus fuck you, let Jesus fuck you. I think that's what it is, or make Jesus fuck you. One of the two. It's Jesus and fucking. Now, you should not be putting those two together. And again, you know, and you obviously don't, it doesn't get that crazy, but like, you just see this young woman stabbing herself in the vagina with a crucifix. And you're like, and in 1973, again, yeah, people are gonna fucking have some visceral reactions to that shit, dude. It's just so fucking out there and wild, and I'm a weirdo, and some of the best stuff in the movie. Anyways, so, yeah, you get a lot of that shit, you know. Pazuzu's saying some very fucked up stuff in this movie. Telling Chris about, do you know what your daughter, do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter? And I'm like, oh my god. I didn't even know you could use the word cunt like that, but hey. But yeah, man. And so she eventually... There's gonna be some people who watch this review, they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I couldn't tell you. Anyways, so we have Karras eventually being convinced to, you know, come in, help out with this exorcism, and he calls to Father Marin, who was the guy who uncovered the Pazuzu statue in the first place. And so these two men go into Reagan's room, which at this point, it is freezing cold there, you know, and again, on the set, I'll talk a little bit about this for a second. William Friedkin did some fucked up stuff on this set, man. Like, to just having a stagehand pull the shit out of Ellen Burstyn and just, I think she broke some shit in her back and stuff, and having, again, like, Linda Blair being 12 years old, obviously they didn't tell her, like, hey, masturbate with a crucifix in this scene. They were just kind of like, hey, stab your lower half with a crucifix. That's basically what they told her. And she goes, okay, and so she's fucking doing it, and, with the magic of movies and editing and all of that, you get what it actually is. But yeah, man, he did some fucked up stuff, had guns on the set, which is another thing I learned about this movie, which is fucking crazy, and the reason he did was if he wanted a scare shot or someone getting, like, jolted or, like, he would just fire off a fucking round, and you're like, oh my god, this guy's out of his fucking mind. Sure, had a great movie because of it, but dude, fuck, man. Anyways, so Karis and Marin go into Reagan's room, and it is now just a cold, dark, bleak husk of a fucking room. It's just complete. It's below freezing, I would imagine. And Reagan is full on Pazuzu'd out, man. The full shit. You get the scene where he's trying to exorcise the demon, and she just pukes all over him, man. Pea soup, brother. Gotta love it. Just right in his fucking face, too. Just fucking, dude. Killer shit, man. So, we get some awesome stuff there, man, and big shout out to the gentleman playing Father Marin, because he has some amazing dialogue in these scenes here, and he fucking eventually, and this demon's just fucking with Karis. I think I keep wanting to call him Harris. Karis, just fucking with Karis, dude. Impersonates a hobo. Like, perfectly emulates the voice of this hobo that he refused to help earlier in the movie. And the big one was, Pazuzu impersonating his mother, who is now dead, telling him that, your mother sucks cocks in hell. Talks about, just all this crazy shit. Fucks with Marin a lot, too. And eventually, Father Marin's like, dude, you've got to get out of here. You've got to go. Like, this is not going to work out for you, dude. And Karis was like, he steps back into the room, and Father Reagan is completely untied. She was tied to the bed because she kept, like, flailing around and shit and having seizures and all that. She's untied, and Father Marin is just laying there, just dead. Just completely fucking dead. Karis does try to revive him, and you just get it's that combo of him just beating down on his chest, and he knows he's dead. He's not stupid, but he's just hoping and praying because he knows that fucking Father Marin's faith is far stronger than his. And so he's like, I'm fucked if I don't have this guy. So he's just pounding on his chest and just, please fucking, like, wake up or something. And then Reagan, or Pazuzu, just starts to giggle. Just starts, like, giggling like a little schoolgirl. Just happy, And again, big props to Linda Blair, man, because that performance right there of her just being almost in this euphoric state as, Father Marin lays there dead. Just insane shit. Absolutely insane. And she starts giggling. And then Karis is just like, fuck this. I'm laying the holy hands of God on you, motherfucker. And he just throws her to the ground and just starts punching her in the face. Just repeatedly. And just yelling at Pazuzu, come into me, take me, leave her, and take me. And Pazuzu's like, it's pretty easy to convince him, man. He's just like, okay. So he just fucking goes into Karis. And we get some amazing... I didn't even mention the fact that we see Pazuzu's true face, very subliminally in most in a couple shots in this movie, which I loved. And the last one was him coming into Karis and just seeing him almost turn, and then he sacrifices himself because right before he's completely overtaken by the demon, which I really like this detail because people, I've never heard anybody talk about this, but it's something I've always felt. You know, Reagan was very vulnerable because of her father being out of the picture. There's a lot of emotional distress there. And obviously, you know, at 12, 13, 14, that age for a woman can be very stressful for multiple reasons that we really don't need to get into. But, you know, so she's a very emotionally vulnerable person. And so the possession is slow, though. When Karis gets possessed, it's like this demon's able to take him almost like that. Because it's like after he's seen all of this shit, plus his mother dying, plus him struggling with the faith, and yada yada, this demon almost has him within like seconds. And right before he fully grasps him, because you see his face start to change, and then he just jumps out of the window and kills himself. Therefore, expelling the demon, because, you know, if the body is dead, the soul leaves, or in this case, the demon leaves. And yeah, man, fuck, dude. And then eventually, you know, so Karis is dead, Father Marin is dead, and Reagan, with the, you know, Pazuzu now out of her, away from her, is just in the fetal position. You know, Chris comes in with a couple other people, and she is just fucking scarred. She's laying there, she's in a fetal position. She's fucking done, dude. She is 100% done. She's yelling out for her mom. And I love this detail, dude. The fact that Chris doesn't immediately go to her and hug her and kiss on her and all the stuff a mother would do with all of this shit going on. She's hesitant because of all the shit that's happened, and she's seen this body do some heinous, fucking just horrible, disgusting, awful shit. But eventually she just can't help it, and she's like, okay, and then she lunges to her, and it's finally over. And yeah, man, then we get our little happy ending, and there's really no, I really love the fact that there's no, like, oh, sequel bait. There's no, oh, Pazuzu's still out there, which, you know, he is, because he didn't really ever leave, you know. I mean, I guess he could have just went back to hell. So, you know, the knowledge is there, I guess, but there's no, like, oh, he's still out there. There's nothing like that. There's no baiting for a sequel, because this movie should not have a sequel. And it has a sequel. We'll talk about that one day. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about one of the best fucking horror films ever made. But yeah, man. So we get our happy ending, and that's The Exorcist, dude. To me, this movie will always be a one and only. There will never be another Exorcist. There's just no way. There's just no way. With that being said, guys, please, for the love of God, go see this movie. There's just, if you are a horror fan, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, you're not a real horror fan if you didn't watch The Exorcist. I didn't watch it for years in my horror fandom, so who the fuck am I to say that? That being said, though, please go watch The Exorcist. It's so fucking good. It is so fucking good. But anyways, man, that will do it for the review portion of this video. And you know what we gotta do now, baby? We gotta get into the blood, the guts, and the gory bits. We gotta get into my kill of the film. Stick around. The Exorcist is one of, if not the scariest movies of all time. I don't see a lot of people debating that. You know, obviously people will have opinions, and, you know, this is actually the scariest horror movie of all time, and I'm cool with that. But to me, The Exorcist is the most inwardly disturbing. Like, it hurts to watch. It hurts to watch. To me, it's the scariest movie of all time. You know. That being said, not the bloodiest, not the goriest in the world by any means. This movie does not rely on a lot of blood and gore, which I'm all for. I like my blood and I like my guts, don't get me wrong, but when a movie is able to just ruin me without all of that stuff, as sick as that sounds, I really enjoy that. And when filmmakers are able to do that, I think it's very admirable. So that being said, really the only kill in this movie is Father Karras. So he, by default, gets my kill of the film. I think Father Marin's death is very impactful. Just Karras walking into the room and seeing him just lying on the bed, just dead, with Regan giggling. I think that's very impactful. But to me, just that sacrifice at the end and him leaping out of the window, I think there's a lot of power to that. Just to see how far that character has come to at first not being willing to give a hobo some money, to sacrificing himself for a little girl that he really hasn't even ever met. Truly not met. And yeah, man. I just think that character work is subtle, but it's so fucking good. But anyways, man, that'll motherfucking do it for The Exorcist. I couldn't watch like a piece of shit in between Dream Child and what we'll be reviewing next time. I had to watch something just fucking raw and good. And I was able to do it with The Exorcist, man. Just a fucking terrific film. Again, please go watch it. And next time on Days of Darkness, it will truly be a dark day on Days of Darkness, because we are going to be watching Freddy's Dead. Yay! Oh, God. Oh, I don't drink, but I think I might make an exception for this. Anyways, guys, let's end this on a high note. Thank you, as always, for coming by and watching me talk shit about a horror movie. This is the dream, man. I'm living it with every single video I record, and I just appreciate the support. 71 subscribers right now. I'd say for doing this for a little over a year. To me, it's pretty good. And I genuinely love each and every one of you. I appreciate you very much. Appreciate you very much. I thank you very much. And I do appreciate you very much as well, even though I don't think that's a saying. But I do, damn it. You guys rule. Thank you so much. And yeah, that'll fucking do it. Take care of each other. Keep watching horror. And have a good day. Alright, guys. Have a good one.